Well, my favorite kind of people are outlaws, especially animation outlaws. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I am pleased today to talk to Kat Alioshin, the director of Animation Outlaws. We're going to be joined shortly also by Spike Decker. Spike Decker is going to be here, actually joining us, talking about your documentary, Animation Outlaws. I'm really excited that you're here, Kat. First of all, I'm a huge fan of the Spike and Mike Twisted Festival of Animation. I've seen it for years. It's launched the careers of so many animators. It's not just a screening festival of short animated films from all over the world with all types of styles of animation and types of filmmakers and animators. It's an event. Tell me how you discovered Spike and Mike, and then I want to bring on Spike and talk to him as well. But tell us what got you involved in creating this documentary.
Sure. So I actually was a super fan of Spike and Mike's show back in La Jolla. Actually, it was a classic film festival. It wasn't the Sick and Twisted. And I became one of their workers. I was one of the flyer boys. Went out there and helped them promote like crazy, hitting all the venues, all the concerts, wrestling matches, wherever we could advertised. But yeah, just a big fan and became good friends with Spike and Mike. And through the years, worked for them. They started back in 1977. So, and I hooked up with them probably like in 87 and worked very hard with them. A lot of box office hours, always selling out all the shows and really just out there doing the street promotion, giving everyone flyers that were coming out of other movies. So yeah, I've known Spike for a long time.
What led to deciding, hey, this is worthy of a documentary? I mean, you don't have to sell me. I know what Spike and Mike have done for the world of animation. But what was your thought process in terms of like, hey, this could be a documentary. More people need to know about this, and what led to that process?
Well, sure. I think you are involved in film, so you do have that kind of edge. But there's so many people out there that have no idea that Spike and Mike really launched the careers of so many people. Even so, the Europeans that they brought over, people like Nick Park, who hadn't had any U.S. screenings, they were able to show his shorts and kind of get his name going and put out there. But just meeting up with Spike probably about 5 years ago and just hearing about so many stories and being reminded of people that he had worked with and showed their shorts that now are like, titans in the industry, people that are making all these animated features. I felt like they really hadn't gotten that credit or just people knowing that they had such a big part of these people's careers.
Well, you really I want to talk to Spike, so we're gonna bring Spike on momentarily, but I want to ask another question of how you got so many. I mean, not just people from animation that have been their lives have been impacted by being a part of Spike and Mike's festival, but also in the documentary itself, you got some amazing people to really give their own testimonials about the impact that Spike and Mike has had. Weird Al Yankovic is in it. Director Andrew Stanton, who he did a movie that I guess it didn't do well financially, but that has never been the barometer for me. Is he did John Carter for Disney,
Mhm.
but also coming from the world of animation, you had so many big people in animation. How did you get them involved? Was just a quick, hey, can you do a solid for Spike and Mike? How did you
Uh,
how'd you get them involved?
Well, a little bit of that, but I actually work in animation. So my career is in stop motion animation. I worked on Nightmare Before Christmas, James and Giant Peach, and Coraline, Corpse Bride, so on. So I actually had a little bit. I had access to some of these people, and just Pixar is really local to me. I'm in the Bay Area, so I can just cross over the bridge and get to Pixar. And so when I actually approached these directors, it was kind of a no-brainer for them. They're like, "Of course, we're gonna support Spike or talk about it because he did help us out early on." So I was very fortunate to have that in animation career inside, but also just basically no one said no, and that was a big plus for me. Definitely Spike's influence of just uh, that they wanted to talk about it. They wanted to share that.
Well, I've just always been a fan of animation, just in general, in particular stop motion. So I
Mhm.
would just say thank you for your service in making and working on so many amazing, iconic stop motion films. But
Okay.
I believe that animation is the purest form of filmmaking because you're making movies one or sometimes two frames at a time, right?
Mhm. Right.
So it's just I've just always been in awe of animators. I've done animation myself. I made a film where we opened the movie with an animated sequence. It's just I believe that and it's also a medium that is still innovating. And that's what I love that Spike and Mike has always championed, not just different types of filmmakers, but different types of animated film styles. There's so many. Well,
Right.
let's not wait any longer. Let's bring on Spike Decker. I have received so many Spike Decker, welcome to the Film Threat podcast. I've
I,
gotten how's it going, man? You're all messed up.
yeah, yeah.
It's good.
Caution, you know.
Good to see you. I normally always see you at least twice a year. I'll see you at San Diego Comic-Con and I'll
Yeah,
see you at Sundance, and you're always giving out flyers.
I know.
The
Very,
the documentary does a really great job of showing the grassroots, no BS, you know, nature, the way that you built this thing into, like I was saying at the beginning, it's not just a screening of movies. It's an event. It's a party. It's a packed house. It's, occasionally you smell the weed, or can hear the sounds of bottles rolling down the aisle. But tell me, what's it like now to take the sort of long view and look back at, like, you built this thing that launched the careers of so many important people in animation, and it all came from really just simple passing out flyers and telling people, hey, come to our screening.
yeah. I mean, the one of the things I'm most proudest of is It's like the quote from Jerry Beck in our book and in the documentary. Spike and Mike came from nowhere with nothing and created a market where none existed. And I look back and our first show at Riverside City College, and just where we came from, we had nothing, no money, no sponsors, and we still don't. And to be able to go to a city where we hadn't been before and do 18,000 people, like San Francisco, and then go to another country, go to Vancouver, and then go to Boston, and then go to Seattle, and then later on go to places like the Annecy Animation Festival and get 5,000 people from all these various countries, was one of the things I'm most proud of. And I look back on that, it almost frightens me because we did all this with guerrilla marketing. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like we'd go to San Francisco and we didn't have the money or the budget. So we'd go out and we'd flyer and we'd get chased off campuses. We'd go to malls, we'd hit concerts. One of my guys once hit a Korn concert with 20,000 cars in the parking lot. He hit every windshield, but standing on the corner of Haight Ashbury and handing out flyers. And that's, I don't know. I mean, I just look back and it even surprises me. It's pretty monumental in that regard, independently.
Well, it's interesting because you use like simple, like kind of the techniques you would use to promote a concert. It's not a traditional like buying ads in the newspaper, right? Like
Right.
passing out flyers or putting flyers out on 20,000 cars. That's how you promote a concert. And I love the idea that you promoted this thing like it was a concert, not like it was a traditional, movie opening in theaters. What did you learn along the way? I mean, you did I know I still would get flyers from you. Might have gotten a flyer from you at, because I see you at the booth at San Diego Comic-Con. Unfortunately, not this year. But I think, is it too soon to announce, Kat, that the film will be screening at San Diego Comic-Con in 2021?
You just did, so that's awesome.
Okay,
It'll be
good.
there. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
which
fine.
gives me hope that it's actually going to happen. But what do you see that you've learned in this guerrilla marketing? I kind of feel like what I love about you, what I've always admired about you, Spike, is that you really like just were willing to do whatever it takes, right? Like you, it's just like if it's me standing, but although I love all your outfits and hats, you're dressed down today.
Yeah.
But the outrageous outfits that you would wear, I think were really, they just always got you attention. People were like, "Who is this guy? This is somebody. I should know who this guy is. He's got to be somebody famous." Whenever I would see you walking around, it's always be some entourage. But what do you think you've learned about marketing and packing the house? Because that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of indie filmmakers could take some advice from you.
No, good point. And whatever it takes is a good way to put it. And it does take a lot. Um, One thing I learned doing this for so long is going to various cities. You get a good gauge. I've always had a good sense, and it's gotten really fine tuned on knowing what works and seeing product before anybody in the world, and knowing also leaving our shows and knowing they got more than their money's worth. So knowing the culture of the city and the campus and the feeling of the city, what'll play in that city, and curating and knowing how to promote in that city was always a big thing. And then just again, we didn't have any money to do any of this stuff, so we're going like UC Berkeley, really, really, really hard to flyer because they're just tunnel vision on their classes. Got to get that degree, and you could, they get inundated with everything, handgunners for Christ, whatever, anything. So you're out there, and one day we're just like, I gave out 4, and Mike gave out 5, and usually we give out thousands. So we went and got the cowboy outfit, and I bought 25 mechanical cows and a whip, and I started herding them on campus. We broke through, one of these. And so we broke through and called the media, and there's some guy out here, a huge guy with a cowboy and a whip, and he's got these cows in the media. And they're like, cows, cowboy, whip, what? So we broke the ice. And so that's to whatever it takes. But it's just coming from nowhere, just the opportunity to have maybe to sell out a Castro or to do 18,000 people, or do the sellout for 3 months solid at the Contemporary Art Museum in La Jolla. It's just 18-hour days, and I don't know, it's just relentless. What we had to do is just relentless, turning over more stones, and who else didn't we flyer and go back and hit San Francisco State and all that, because again, we didn't have the internet at first, and then we didn't have the money to do the traditional things where people just kind of pull a lever. So the intensity of it, I can't even articulate the intensity of it. I mean, it's insane. I look back, and it's insane how we promoted.
Well, yeah, it is insane. And, I mean, I knew about you before I met you because I had seen the Spike and Mike it was in Santa Monica, the theater on the West Side. What was the name of that theater back in the day?
There's so many. We played at all the Lemley theaters.
That was it.
Lemley every weekend. We played there. A lot of those.
Yeah, it was just, and it was always a line, huge line, and you created this atmosphere that was not just the actual screening of the films as well, which was, I mean, I'm trying to think if I ever saw anything that I thought was bad. Never thought, I mean, there are movies I liked more than others, but it was always like, well, if you're not into this one, just wait for the next one. And Sick and Twisted, that became like a brand, right? Like,
yeah.
Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted was the how far can it go? I just am curious what you think audiences today, because we live in a bizarre time in our culture where people are offended by everything. And so I'm thinking like, oh my God, like, people, I see the cancel culture just complaining about stuff that happened in the 90s. I can't imagine what they would think about Spike and Mike, but I think there's a lot of pushback against that now. Like I really hope we get to a place where we can laugh again at these things and enjoy something like Sick and Twisted. How have you observed a culture shift at all as you've been doing this?
I mean, I see it. I mean, our thing was always like, we made the Sick and Twisted 18 and over and strictly enforce that. That was always our thing with that, to respect that. But I don't know. I think we had license because a lot of our shows are at midnight and it says Sick and Twisted. So people would come in there and there's rumors that they would consume various things before they came to the show. I just heard rumors to that effect. And so it's a crowd. They're ready. They're ready to party. And I remember one time in maybe Portland or something, this one group that goes around to protest everything. You know, some of those showed up in the line. I'm going, my midnight crowd, you really kind of don't want to aggravate these guys because they don't take any guff. So I think the license with that is sort of like going to a UFC match and then complaining because they hit each other. You know,
Right.
that was it. And then with the original show, the non-Sick and Twisted show, which always followed international flavor and the Academy Awards and the best in animation and animation, you know, films that are took 30,000 hand rendered cells to make this 10-minute, 13-minute film, just works of art. You know, to me, it's like animation, truest art form because it brings art to life. And the quality of that. And that one where we introduced, you know, all the Pixar guys, Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, Nick Park, Wallace and Gromit, the great Rybczynski did Tango from Poland, Paul Driesen from the Netherlands, just masters of Paul worked on Yellow Submarine, masters of animation. So the quality on that, and that was all ages. So there again, and it's all ages. We respected that when it's Sick and Twisted. We said it's Sick and Twisted, and humor's always been the number one criteria. And our library right now is so broad in scope that if I put together a custom 90-minute show, the humor and the quality is just impeccable. I mean, we've got some from where we first started, which was just kind of shock value and crude, but it's evolved to where now even in Sick and Twisted, there's some beautifully rendered films.
Well, I have a question for both you, Spike, and Kat. Is how did you guys get together and say, "Hey, we're making a documentary"? And then what was the process like? What I really love is that in addition to interviews with some of the giants of animation, you also have some incredible old footage, like stuff like from way back in the day. Like, so what was the process? How did you guys get together? And then what was your process in terms of working on this doc?
Well, Spike had come up to San Francisco, and I'm in the Bay Area, and he this was a couple years ago, and he was talking about having been approached by other people to do a documentary about him. And I was driving home that night, and I said, why would someone else do this? I'm the right person. I worked with him. I work in animation. So I just kind of proposed to him that very night or the next day. I said, Spike, I want to make your documentary. And he agreed. And then I pretty much left him alone. I didn't ask you too many favors, Spike. I just told him what I wanted to do. I contacted a lot of artists, and he came up for a few of the interviews, but a lot of times it was I didn't have him at the interviews just so that the people could speak freely and not have him there. So for the most part, there was a lot of freedom. Spike pretty much didn't have too much to say in it, except that it's about him. So I wanted to keep a little bit of that space so that I could get some good answers from the interviewees. And then just going back, and he helped me find some of the contacts for the films that had been used in the festival, and I end up using 65 clips of animation that from those festivals. So, and that's just going out there and asking the people if I could use it. And for the most part, again, due to Spike giving people a chance and launching their careers, a lot of them gave me the footage, which is amazing, and said, "Go ahead, use it. We want you to have this." So that helped a lot with the budget. And there's a few out there that didn't, but they're worth that part. And yeah, Spike, anything else you want to say about it? But basically we met at Cha Cha Cha, and you said, let's do a documentary.
They've got great sangria there. Yeah, I've never met this woman before in my life, actually. I don't know. I mean, there were several people who wanted to do it, but Kat, you know, the first thing with me is it's just hard for me in trusting somebody, and that's the main thing right there, right off the bat. I trust her, and so right there, beyond anybody else. So I'm going to go with that. So that right there, boom, it's on, and Kat stepped up. She's put the money, the time into it. And like nobody's ever done that for us our whole life. We've been independent. We've never had help with any, like I said earlier, no rich parents, no sponsors, no this, no that, no nothing, So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's well, the result is amazing. If anything, just watching the documentary, all it did was make me want to re-experience all of those old animated, like Closed Mondays is just such an amazing claymation film. Bambi Meets Godzilla. I know it's cheesy, but that's such a crowd pleaser.
Right.
It's so, I mean, it's like a 1 minute movie, and it's such a ridiculous title, and it's awesome. Like there were just so many artists that you introduced, and you created not just an audience for this out of nothing, as you said with the quote from the beginning, not just this audience, but you created this community of animators that, I mean, look, people that tend to be creative in certain spaces are kind of awkward and socially, I'm gonna just like awkward and shy, right? So you're taking these animators, you throw them in a room, and there's maybe some things to enjoy, some beverages, and people all tend to they
So
make
I wanted to say something real quick. So
Please.
it kind of comes back around. I did do custom animation, as you mentioned earlier, with Spike as a puppet, which he never got to see or approve. So I don't think he's very happy about the caricature of his little puppet. But I had local Tim Hiddle animated that, and Tim Hiddle had a couple of pieces in Spike and Mike, the Canhead series. So again, I was using people that had films in his in the classical show. So that to me was great to go back, and these people wanted to help out. So Tim Hiddle animated Spike.
Oh, that's the stop motion. There's like a big hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I thought that was awesome. I thought
and
it was
the Scotty dog.
it's perfect. So I mean, look, we're living at a time now where movie theaters are, hopefully they'll open later this year with new rules about how to watch films in public. I fingers crossed. I know drive-ins are thriving. There's 2 drive-in movie theaters near me. I hope there's some way to bring Spike and Mike back in a theater setting at some point. But Animation Outlaws is available what are the details? How can I see it and get more info?
Yeah, well, this is great timing. So July 14th, it's going to be available video on demand. Also, you can do pre-order DVD, Blu-ray through Amazon.com, and Apple iTunes will be also showing it. So July 14th.
Perfect. July 14th,
Yeah.
Animation Outlaws. And where can people go to get more info? Spike about Spike and Mike, and then Kat about the film.
I got the refrigerator repairman is here.
Oh, the refrigerator repairman. This is perfect. We're having a real moment on the podcast.
Animationoutlaws.com. My website has the trailer. There's a page there that lists all the films I use, all the clips. So people are, what was that? Was that Bill Plimpton? Was that Nick Park? Right. Who was that? So they can see. And then the appearance of the people in it. And then Spike has the Facebook page too, Spike and Mike's Festival.
I'd say just work off a Kat's site the best. One thing I was going to add, a couple real quick things is, please. We're in the process of maybe doing a sort of a merger deal with somebody. I'm at the point now to where I'm trying to partner up with people to let them, especially in the digital world, because we own this huge library of content. And, I come from theatrical and film and 35 millimeter, but we have rights to all this. So I'm trying to partner up with people that can take those things and maybe monetize and use some of all what we put together. And so that's one of my main focuses right now. And then I just want to point that out. And then as far as the other, Kat mentioned it earlier, but to the very beginning of all the the people that we premiered. We premiered theatrically in 35 millimeter, the first Spirit of Christmas, South Park, Beavis and Butthead, Powerpuff Girls, Pixar shorts, Andre and Wally B, Luxo Jr., all
Happy
this
Tree
stuff.
Friends, Happy Tree
Yes.
Friends. Like
Ken
there's just
Navarro.
there's
Yeah.
too many. You open the door, Spike. You opened the door to so many people and gave them their first like confidence that they had done something. I mean, it's just amazing the number of people, huge giants in the industry now that you discovered. It's just mind-boggling. So yeah, I do. Yeah, you got to go to animationoutlaws.com to be able to look at, because I remember seeing most of the films from that are used in the documentary, but man, just there's got to be a way for the library to live on and on.
And we're getting new stuff all the time. And like I said earlier, the show that I could put together now, the integrity and quality and entertainment value of a custom show, either with the original show or Sick and Twisted, it'd just be impeccable. And
Spike, when you go to Annecy in France, you have that crowd you have there is thousands of people are watching that. And that's an outdoor screen.
Yeah.
The audience is huge.
Outside screenings at Annecy with like 5,000 kids showing up. And I can say, sort of a self-patting myself on the back moment, is like, we've always been ahead of the curve and just impeccable taste on knowing what's going to work. And if anything, I've come out of that after all these years. That's something we've proven time and time again, over and over, that we're there and we bring it and we create somebody, again, it's from unknown to iconic, or just the quality of what we find. So I just want to point that out. And that's what I know how to do best. Well,
Spike and Kat, I really appreciate your time. And Kat, you have a much cooler mug than, I don't know, my mug's not too bad.
Oh.
My Cinerama mug isn't too bad. Your mug
You would appreciate this, Chris.
Wow.
This is an stop motion animated feature being worked on called The Witch Doctor.
And that's from The Witch Doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's going on.
And then,
but
I'm sorry.
And this
the
is
background. We got.
Oh yeah, I was
nice.
That's to her left, I guess.
Look at that.
A film we produced, one of the first films we did with Andrew Stanton, called The Story, and we did we paid for the production, all the ink and paint and camera shoots and everything on that, and we did that with so many people.
I love it.
We stepped up, and
that's a cell from it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you both for being on the Film Threat podcast. I also want to thank Kat and Spike. I also want to thank the refrigerator repairman who's so patient while you're finishing your interview for the Film Threat podcast. And I want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. Go to storyblocks.com/filmthreat. Tools for filmmakers. You'll get a deal if you go to storyblocks.com/filmthreat. I want to thank them. Kat and Spike, thank you so much. The documentary Animation Outlaws is fantastic. It's an achievement. And Spike, what you've done in your career, you're an inspiration for so many. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you again. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.